Imagine for a moment that all the noise in your mind stops, that the judgments, the guilt, and the voices of fear dissolve into an ocean of stillness. Imagine awakening in a silence so deep that you can hear the whisper of your soul reminding you who you truly are, a limitless being, filled with power, health, and abundance. Joseph Murphy taught that thoughts are living seeds, and the soil in which you plant them, your mind, can bear fruits of misery or miracles. But for the mind to bloom, it must first be cleansed. It must fast, not from food, but from toxic thoughts, from beliefs that chain you, from words that drain your energy. This text is a journey into that healing silence, a silence that is not emptiness, but fullness. As you listen, your mind will begin to quiet, your emotions will realign, and a new strength will rise from within, the awareness of the I Am, the creative power that renews all things. Prepare to be reborn, to leave behind the voice of the ego and hear the divine voice that lives within you. Because when you fast from toxic thoughts, the entire universe conspires to return you to your true essence, peace, light, and boundless abundance. Welcome to the healing silence. You are not here to learn more. You are here to remember what you have always been. Allow me to invite you from this very first moment to consider a truth as simple as it is revolutionary. Your mind, just like your body, accumulates toxins. Perhaps you have felt it without being able to name it. A heaviness you cannot explain, thoughts that endlessly repeat, a fog that clouds your mood and weakens your hope. This is mental constipation, a phenomenon as common as it is ignored, responsible for much of the anxiety, fatigue, and discouragement that humanity suffers today. For years, I sought answers in science, in faith, and in the testimonies of thousands of men and women who came to me seeking relief. I discovered with astonishment that over 90% of the thoughts that cross the average person's mind are the same ones as yesterday, and that the vast majority are negative. Worries, criticisms, painful memories, fears that never come to pass. This automatic repetition creates a vicious cycle, a blockage in the natural flow of subconscious wisdom, just as the body falls ill when waste cannot find an outlet. Imagine your mind as a river. When the waters flow cleanly, life thrives along its banks. But if the riverbed becomes clogged with branches, debris, and mud, the water stagnates, the fish die, and the air fills with a foul stench. The same happens within the human being. Every fearful thought, every judgment, every resentment accumulates until it forms an invisible dam, blocking the free flow of inspiration, peace, and creative power, all of which are your birthright. It was by observing this repeated pattern in hundreds of stories that the concept of mental fasting was born. Just as the body needs to fast from time to time to release toxins and renew its energy, the mind demands its own rest, its own space for cleansing. You cannot fill a cup that is already full of poison. First, you must empty it. This is the fundamental premise upon which this book is built, and the practice I invite you to adopt here. I have witnessed transformations that border on the miraculous. I recall the case of a woman trapped in bitterness, who after 20 years of chronic complaints and worries, decided to fast from negative thoughts for 21 days. When she finished, she felt as if she had awakened from a long sleep. A young entrepreneur, consumed by fear of ruin, managed to reverse his fate when he learned to empty his mind of catastrophic news and plant seeds of success and abundance. An entire family immersed in conflict discovered harmony simply by dedicating 1 day a week to silence and gratitude. There is no hidden mystery, nor any privilege reserved for a select few. Mental fasting is a universal law, available to anyone willing to practice it with sincerity and consistency. In the pages that follow, you will learn to identify the toxins that block your mind, to release old emotional residues, and to establish a daily mental hygiene that will become the foundation of all healing, prosperity, and lasting happiness. Make yourself this promise: do not attempt to fill your life with solutions until you have emptied your mind of poisons. Only then can the infinite power that resides within you flow unimpeded, renewing your existence from its roots. You have already taken the first step. You have decided to empty the cup. Now prepare yourself to receive what is new. Mental fasting, cleansing the mind. Based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy, we have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The invisible pollution of the mind. Pause for a moment and observe your mind, just as you would examine a field before planting a seed. Have you ever wondered where your worries come from, your sleepless nights, the irritation that haunts you without apparent cause? Today I reveal to you with the authority of one who has witnessed bodies heal and destinies transform, that the human mind, like the body, can become intoxicated. But mental intoxication is invisible, insidious, and far more common than most people imagine. Modern humans live surrounded by what I call psychic garbage. These are the residues of thoughts, words, and images that we consume daily, without awareness or selection, much like someone eating hastily without considering the origin of their food. Think about it. Every news broadcast filled with tragedy, every conversation colored by complaint, every repetitive thought of fear or failure, these are foods that silently descend into the repository of your subconscious mind. And just as with the physical body, what nourishes your mind ultimately shapes your entire life. Let me ask you a direct question that will open the door to self-awareness. Do you feed yourself with healthy, uplifting, faith-filled thoughts? Or do you consume what the world serves at random? Collective worries, other people's dramas, borrowed discouragement. Just as no one can thrive on physical poison, no one can expect peace, clarity, and mental health while ingesting toxic information day after day. Mental digestion, a revealing parallel. Imagine your mind as a delicate digestive system. If tomorrow morning you start the day with a glass of clean water, continue with fresh foods, and avoid poisons, your body would bloom with energy and health. But what happens if you consume only rancid fats, adulterated drinks, and leftovers from several days ago? The answer is simple. Indigestion, fatigue, illness. Your mind works under the same laws. Every word you hear, every image you allow through your eyes, every thought you repeat within yourself is nourishment. And just as rotten meat contaminates the blood, negative thoughts and toxic news poison your consciousness, cloud your reason, and weaken your spirit. Remember this truth. Everything that enters your mind is imprinted on your subconscious and eventually manifests in your external life. Try this experiment. Observe how you feel after watching an hour of catastrophic news or engaging in a conversation filled with complaints and judgments. Do you not feel anxiety, irritation, a kind of inner heaviness? These are symptoms of mental intoxication, the insomnia that steals your sleep, the irritability over small details, the constant sense of imminent danger. These are not, as you may think, the result of your environment, but the direct consequence of the mental foods you have consumed without selection. The 24-hour inventory. Here is a simple yet transformative exercise. For the next 24 hours, keep an honest record of everything that enters your mind. Note every news item you consume, every conversation you have, every recurring thought that visits you. Be honest without judgment, but meticulous as a scientist. At the end of the day, review your inventory and ask yourself, how much of this material was nourishing, uplifting, worthy of being planted in the fertile field of your mind? And how much, on the contrary, was garbage, toxic, repetitive, harmful? Many of my listeners, after completing this exercise, are surprised at the sheer volume of mental waste they have accepted without resistance. They realize, with a mixture of awe and regret, that they have allowed their minds to become a collective landfill, receiving everything that others think, feel, and fear. The good news is that simply becoming aware begins the cleansing process. You cannot clean what you ignore, but the moment you recognize the intoxication, your true freedom begins. Distinguishing nourishing from toxic mental food. Nourishing information is that which elevates you, inspires you, and gives you strength to face the day. It is the thought of faith in goodness. Reading a biography that awakens your desire for self-improvement. A conversation with someone who sees the best in you. These are reminders of nourishment. Toxic mental food, on the other hand, is easy to identify. Repeated news of disaster, gossip, criticism, images of failure, stories of ruin and suffering. Make a mental list right now. What kind of information have you allowed into your consciousness today? Does it feed your faith, your hope, your sense of purpose? Or does it merely repeat the cycle of worry, fear, and frustration? A real story, the executive and the invisible clog. Let me tell you about a successful-looking executive who came to me distressed by recurrent ulcers. He had visited doctors, tried diets, taken medications without pause, but the ulcers always returned during periods of financial stress. In conversation, I discovered the true origin of his ailment. He compulsively consumed negative financial news, surrounded himself with colleagues who spoke only of crisis, and spent hours imagining scenarios of bankruptcy and ruin. I explained that just as a body cannot heal while receiving poison, his mind could not find peace while intoxicated with disaster thoughts. I recommended a total fast from catastrophic financial news and the conscious cultivation of thoughts of prosperity and security. In less than a month, his symptoms diminished significantly. His recovery was not an inexplicable miracle, but the natural result of clearing the mental intake channel and planting healthy ideas in the subconscious. Self-assessment questionnaire for mental toxicity. Now let me guide you through a brief self-evaluation. Ask yourself these questions honestly. Do you find yourself thinking of catastrophes, even when everything is calm? Is it difficult to sleep because your mind revolves around failure or worry? Do you frequently feel irritation, even without apparent reason? Is your first impulse upon waking to check negative news? Do you often talk about how bad the world is? Is it easy for you to criticize others but hard to praise them? Do you sense a constant background noise in your mind? Do you catch yourself repeating other people's thoughts without questioning them? Do you find it hard to focus on positive things for more than a few minutes? Do you feel guilty when you stop consuming news, as if you are uninformed? Do you identify more with problems than solutions? Do you feel an almost automatic impulse to complain? Have you lost the ability to feel wonder and gratitude? Do you suffer from mental fatigue, even after resting physically? Do you fundamentally believe that life is an endless struggle? If you answer yes to more than 5 of these questions, you are in a state of mental intoxication. Do not fear. Recognizing it is the first step toward purification and inner renewal. Table of toxic versus nourishing mental foods. You do not need an exhaustive list, but remember this. Mental food is either fertilizer for your well-being or a pest that undermines your inner terrain. Toxic foods. News of disasters, rumors, criticism, images of violence, thoughts of defeat. Nourishing foods, words of encouragement, inspirational readings, images of beauty, conversations of hope, thoughts of gratitude and faith. Make a commitment now. Accept only that which builds you up, that gives life, that sows peace. Just as a gardener does not allow weeds in the garden, you are the guardian of your mental garden. Only you can decide what enters and what leaves. Your subconscious is fertile soil, but it cannot distinguish between good and bad seeds. You are the planter, the watchman, the protector. Conclusion and affirmation. Close this chapter with the following conviction. I now choose to cleanse my mind of all psychic garbage. I reject thoughts and words that do not build my well-being. I allow only that which is pure, healthy, and true to enter. My mind is my temple and my garden. I am the guardian of its gate. Never forget, what you plant in your mind, you harvest in your life. Take inventory, recognize the intoxication, and begin your cleansing process today. Your destiny depends on what you allow to grow within you. And always remember, a clean mind is the gateway to a renewed, strong, and radiant life. Chapter 2. The Spiritual Science of Fasting. Few habits transform a person's life as profoundly as mental fasting, but it is necessary to strip the word fasting of its layer of prejudice and fear. We are not speaking here of suffering or absurd deprivation, but of inner liberation, the deep cleansing of the currents of your mind, so that the wisdom and power of the subconscious may flow like a renewed river. Since time immemorial, the great spiritual traditions have known the secret of fasting, not as penance, but as a method of encountering the infinite. What was Moses doing on the mountain, Jesus in the desert, Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree? They did not withdraw from the world to escape it, but to empty the mind of noise, to clear the inner channels, and to open the soul to the voice of the eternal. The common misconception. The common mistake is to confuse fasting with simple abstinence. Most people, when they hear about mental fasting, immediately think of sacrifice, a kind of self-punishment, or having to give up everything that brings pleasure or security. Nothing could be further from the truth. The fasting I propose is an act of power, not weakness. It is the conscious decision to create space within yourself, to empty the cup so that it may be filled with new wine. Remember always, you cannot receive the divine while your mind is saturated with the profane. Nature abhors a vacuum. The metaphysical law that governs all levels of life can be summed up simply: nature abhors a vacuum. If you clear a neglected field, good or bad grass will soon sprout. If you air out a container, it is immediately filled with air. The same happens on the mental plane. When you empty your consciousness of toxic thoughts, worries, and useless repetitions, you do not remain empty for long. That emptiness is immediately filled by a higher presence, a current of inspiration, a clarity of vision, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. In the words of the wise, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This affirmation, repeated for centuries in whispers by monks, mystics, and seekers of truth, is not a command to passivity, but an invitation to experience the active power of stillness. To be still, in the spiritual science of fasting, means silencing the mental clamor to discover behind all appearances the constant voice of I am, the inner presence, the creative power waiting to be recognized and used. Fasting practices in different cultures. The ancient Egyptians practiced days of silence to prepare the mind for mysteries. Hindu yogis even today retreat to the mountains to fast not only from food, but from words, company, and distractions. Early Christians entered retreats where the only rule was to withdraw from the world and make space for the inner voice. In the Zen tradition, a novice may spend entire weeks in silent meditation before receiving a single verbal instruction. All these traditions agree on one point: the mind must be emptied of the old to receive the new. It is no coincidence. When the mind is saturated with thoughts, foreign beliefs, and worries, it becomes like a poorly tuned radio, only static, noise, and interference. Clean that channel, and what was confusion becomes clarity. What was anguish turns to serenity. What was painful emptiness becomes creative space. Modern science and inner silence. Even modern science, just beginning to explore the power of the mind, has observed this principle. Brainwave researchers have shown that states of inner silence achieved during deep meditation alter the brain's electrical activity. Beta waves associated with anxious and repetitive thinking decrease. Alpha and theta waves linked to creativity, healing, and intuition become dominant. In simple terms, mental fasting, the act of making space and remaining in silence, is not a religious superstition, but a natural law. Just as a farmer knows to let the soil rest to regain fertility, the spiritual seeker learns that the mind only produces fruit when it is stripped of excess and allowed to rest. Resting in stillness, the monk and spiritual insight. Listen carefully to a story entrusted to me by a Western monk, a man of study and prayer. For years, this good man suffered from an inner blindness. He read, meditated, prayed, but felt something blocked his access to true light. Problems accumulated in his daily life. No answer satisfied him. Everything felt like effort, dry and tiring. Then, inspired by ancient practices, he decided to undertake a fast of words, 40 full days without speaking a word, without writing a line, without listening to any conversation except what was strictly necessary. At first, the silence was unbearable. The mind, deprived of its usual noise, hurled repetitive thoughts, doubts, and memories at him. But he persisted, understanding that these were the residues of old impressions rising to the surface. By the third week, something began to change. The mind, tired of struggling, surrendered and became like a tranquil lake. It was then that new ideas emerged, unexpected solutions to problems that had tormented him for years. I felt, he told me, as if my spiritual eyes had opened. Everything I sought outside of myself I found in the inner stillness. It was the fast of words that cleared the channel. Fasting as liberation, not deprivation. This is the central teaching. Mental fasting is an act of liberation. You do not come here to lose, but to gain. You do not stop thinking to impoverish yourself, but to enrich your life with the wisdom that arises only in fertile emptiness. It is not about repressing or fighting thoughts, but allowing that by ceasing to feed the noise, the higher nature of your being takes its rightful place. What you call emptiness is actually the space where infinite power can move freely. Is this not what Jesus experienced in the desert, when he was tempted not by external demons, but by his own human ideas and emotions? By resisting the world's noise, fasting from words and company, he prepared the ground to receive divine inspiration, the message that would transform humanity. The same occurs with you. When you make space in your consciousness, the inner voice, the I am, the spirit, speaks clearly and guides you with power. Practical application. Create your inner space. Decide today to practice small mental fasts. If you cannot retreat for 40 days, retreat 40 minutes a day from noise. Silence your phone, turn off the radio, set aside the newspaper. Sit in stillness, breathe calmly, and repeat silently. Be still. I am the peace and wisdom of God in action. Do not struggle with your thoughts. Let them pass like clouds in the sky. At first, doubts, memories, and restlessness will arise. Pay them no mind. Simply observe and let them dissipate. Soon you will discover that beneath the surface of your agitated mind lies a current of peace, a spring of clarity and solutions revealed only when you make space. Thus say the great sages of all ages. Modern experiments confirm it. And so will you, when mental fasting becomes not an occasional effort, but a regular practice as natural as breathing. Closing affirmation. Whisper to yourself, I choose mental fasting. I empty my mind of all useless thoughts and allow infinite wisdom to flow within me. Where once there was noise, now there is fertile silence. And in that silence, I receive guidance, inspiration and strength to live in peace. Remember, do not fear the inner void. It is there that divinity meets you and transforms you. Nature abhors a vacuum, and infinite power is always ready to fill it with its luminous presence. Chapter 3, The News Fast. Liberation from collective fear. Have you ever wondered why, even when your life unfolds in relative calm, your mind seems always on the alert for disaster? Why fear, anxiety, and insecurity have become constant companions for millions of people, even in safe environments? It is time to lift the veil and observe one of the great traps of our age, the mass, uncritical consumption of news, which has become the mental opiate of modern society. News, for the most part, is not information, it is programming. The relentless rhythm of other people's catastrophes, crimes, scandals, and alerts is not meant to make you wise, but to keep you in a state of perpetual vigilance and worry. Just as opium numbs consciousness, the daily flood of bad news weakens your discernment, clouds your spirit, and sows the seeds of collective fear in your subconscious, day by day. The hidden effect of news, mental conditioning. Let me speak frankly. Your subconscious mind is a fertile garden, but it has no filters. Everything you repeat, see, or hear, especially when emotionally charged, is received, stored, and sooner or later manifested in your expectations and reactions. When you consume daily accounts of crimes, accidents, financial ruin, and conflicts, you are not merely informed. You are planting in your mind a dark, limited vision of reality. That vision determines your responses, your mood, and even your opportunities. I've seen healthy people become sick with fear, courageous men turn indecisive, and families fracture from nothing more than the habit of constantly monitoring the world's alarms. Do not ignore this. Fear is not a passing emotion. It is a mental pattern that turns you into a servant of circumstances. The News Fast. Radical detoxification for the modern mind. That is why I propose a 30-day news fast. Of all forms of mental fasting, this is the most powerful, the one that most quickly transforms the quality of your life. It consists simply of abstaining, for 30 consecutive days, from all sources of news: television, radio, newspapers, online portals, social media focused on catastrophes, and any conversation centered on the world's problems. Does this seem extreme? Remember, you cannot fill a cup that is already overflowing with poison. Before seeking clarity, you must first remove the source of intoxication. Detailed protocol for the news fast. Before you begin, sign a contract with yourself. Take a sheet of paper and write, "For the next 30 days I commit, for my own well-being and that of my family, to abstain from consuming news of any kind. My inner peace is more valuable than the spectacle of collective fear." Sign it and place it somewhere visible. This simple, firm decision is your first step toward freedom. The first 7 days withdrawal symptoms. Your mind, accustomed to the daily bombardment of new fears, will demand its dose of anxiety and urgency. You may experience anxiety, fear of missing out, or even physical restlessness. Do not be alarmed. This is mental detoxification in action. Just as the body reacts when sugar or caffeine is removed, the mind protests when freed from the toxic food of other people's worry. Days 8 to 15, unexpected changes. Anxiety begins to give way to a strange calm. Your attention sharpens for what truly matters, your immediate surroundings, your loved ones, your own thoughts. You will discover that most news does not affect your real life, and that the world, despite the headlines, continues its course without your constant monitoring. Weeks 3 and 4, extraordinary clarity. Mental clarity becomes remarkable. You regain energy, creativity, and motivation. By disconnecting from collective fear, you open yourself to inspiration and serenity. You begin to notice opportunities where you once saw only threats. Without effort, you become a beacon of calm amid turmoil. Withdrawal symptoms and expected progress. Days 1-7, anxiety, fear of missing out, temptation to check your phone, sense of emptiness, physical restlessness. Days 8-15, emergence of calm, increased energy, greater presence in the here and now. Days 16-30, mental clarity, improved sleep, more harmonious relationships, renewed creative drive. Stories of transformation, proof of the mental law. Let me illustrate the power of this fast with real examples. A housewife wrote to me, "For years I suffered from chronic depression. I lived anxious about the crimes and tragedies I heard every morning. I accepted the challenge of the news fast. The first week was difficult, but then it felt as if a fog lifted. I began to enjoy my home again. My mood improved, and most surprisingly, my children became happier and calmer." An investor, accustomed to monitoring market panic, decided to stop reading alarming headlines for a month. Result? My mind stopped anticipating losses. I made calmer decisions and earned more that month than in the previous quarter. I realized fear did not protect me. It paralyzed me. A father shared, "I always turned on the news during breakfast. My wife and children left for school and work with their spirits low. When I stopped that habit, our conversations changed. We talked about plans, good things, dreams. The atmosphere at home transformed. Do you need more proof? Remember, 9 out of 10 people who practice the news fast report notable improvements in mood and the quality of their relationships. The mental law is inexorable. You become what you contemplate." Transformative affirmation. To seal your new mental attitude, repeat this each morning. I nourish myself only with thoughts that build my well-being. The catastrophes of the world have no power over my inner peace. Make this affirmation your shield and your guide. Conclusion. The world will continue to turn with its lights and shadows, but you will have control over your mind. Remember, you are not responsible for solving all the problems of others, but you are the guardian of your inner peace. The news fast does not isolate you from reality. It protects you from manipulation and allows you to choose the frequency at which you wish to live. Try it. 30 days can change the rest of your life. And at the end, you will discover that the greatest news is your own inner rebirth. Chapter 4. The Silence Diet, the regenerative power of not speaking. There is an ancient secret as old as humanity itself, which has been forgotten in the age of noise. The regenerative power of silence. We live surrounded by words like a fish swimming endlessly in turbulent waters. Words fill the air, often empty, repetitive, and in many cases frankly destructive. Scholars of language and daily life estimate that over 80% of the words we speak each day serve no real function. They neither build, console, resolve, nor inspire. They merely fill the space where your true inner path could flourish. If you wish to experience a profound transformation in your mind, your health, and your relationships, I invite you to discover the practice of the weekly silence diet. 1 full day, 24 hours, without speaking a word. Not as punishment or oppression, but as an act of openness and receptivity to the silent voice of the infinite intelligence dwelling in the depths of your being. Silence is not repression. It is receptivity. Do not confuse this silence with the mere absence of sound or the repression of words you wish to speak. Passive silence is sterile. It is merely a wall separating you from the world and yourself. Active silence, on the other hand, is a fertile field where consciousness can sprout, where the mind quiets, and finally listens to the guidance of the higher power. Authentic silence is not emptiness. It is the antechamber of inspiration, the workshop where wisdom works in silence. Remember, repression is like covering a boiling pot. Sooner or later it will explode, often in unhealthy ways. Receptivity instead is like opening a window to let fresh air in. It is not about holding back. It is about allowing the new to enter. Manual for your first day of silence. Prepare for this day as if you were sowing a sacred seed. Inform your family or housemates in advance that you will dedicate a day to conscious silence. Explain that this is not anger or disdain, but a spiritual practice intended for your well-being and ultimately for the benefit of those around you. Keep a notebook or small slips of paper for emergencies. If you must communicate something essential, a direction, an urgent notice, write it down. This prevents breaking your commitment while training your mind to communicate with precision. Words gain greater weight, and only what is truly necessary remains. The night before, plan your meals. Choose simple tasks and create a space where you can sit in calm, even if just for a few minutes each hour. During the day, dedicate intervals to conscious breathing. Inhale slowly, hold for a few seconds, exhale gently, allowing each silent breath to penetrate more deeply. Thoughts will arise, impulses to speak, restlessness. Do not fight them. Observe, breathe, let them pass. As with a physical fast, the first moments may feel uncomfortable. But once you pass that initial threshold, you will discover a new lightness. The soul begins to speak when the mouth is still. The practical power of silence, real cases. Let me share 2 stories that illustrate the real power of this practice. The first is a salesperson whose life seemed stressful. "I have tried every persuasion technique," he said, "but my sales don't improve, and I return home each night exhausted and frustrated." I suggested practicing 1 day of silence each week to discover the art of listening rather than speaking. 3 months later, he came to me jubilant. I have tripled my sales, and more importantly, I now enjoy every interaction. I learned that truly listening is more powerful than any speech. Another story involves a teacher, always concerned with classroom discipline. She had tried sermons, warnings, and punishments. She decided to try compassionate silence. When conflicts arose, she remained quiet, holding her presence and gaze. The change was astonishing. Students, surprised by the absence of reaction, began listening to each other and self-regulating. Together, they discovered the power of silence as a catalyst for harmony. Selective silence, an advanced technique. It is not necessary to wait for a full day to savor the fruits of silence. I invite you to practice selective silence. Choose key moments in your day when you will not speak, for example, the first hour in the morning, during meals, or before bed. These brief intervals have a multiplying effect on the quality of your thoughts and emotions. Before speaking, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it constructive, clarifying, or peaceful? If the answer is no, silence is the best choice. Over time, you will discover that many words you once thought essential were just noise. Silence makes you the master of your mind, and consequently, your destiny. Conscious breathing exercise to deepen silence. During your day of silence, pause several times for this breathing exercise. Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Inhale while counting to 4, feeling your chest expand. Hold the air while counting to 4. Exhale gently while counting to 4. Empty your lungs completely. Repeat this cycle for 5 minutes, surrendering each thought to stillness. You will find that the mind, like a wind-stirred lake, only reveals its depths when the surface is calm. The hidden gift of silence. Silence not only quiets the mind, it opens the channel to inner guidance. How many times have you felt intuition, a solution, or a clear vision emerge when you were silent? That subtle voice is the infinite intelligence speaking within you, but it can only be heard in the clean space of silence. Remember, words are seeds, but silence is the fertile soil where those seeds germinate. This is why the great sages alternate between speaking and being still. Jesus taught this by withdrawing to pray alone. Ancient prophets and modern innovators alike practiced it. Conclusion and affirmation. Make silence a sacred habit. Practice the fasting of words not as a sacrifice, but as a source of regeneration. Decide today to reserve 1 day a week, or short daily periods, for the silence diet. Keep your notebook for the essential, breathe, observe, and allow inspiration to visit. Close your day with this affirmation. In silence, I hear the voice of wisdom within me. Silence is my source of power, clarity, and regeneration. Remember, the true miracle is not in what you say, but in what you discover when you allow yourself to listen deeply. Silence activates your dialogue with the infinite and grants you a peace that no word can buy. Chapter 5. Complaint detox, 21 days of pure gratitude. There is a mental toxin so common and disguised that, having become part of the social air, many breathe it in without suspecting its devastating effect. I am referring to complaining. Unlike other forms of psychic poison, complaining does not always appear as an explosive burst of bitterness. It often seeps in drop by drop in everyday dialogues, automatic thoughts, jokes, and comparisons. Have you noticed how often it arises in you, almost without intending it? A sarcastic phrase, a criticism, an observation that highlights the negative. The human mind, trained for centuries to detect danger, has made complaining its default language. But complaining is, in truth, the bitter seed of scarcity and frustration. The metaphysical law, what you focus on expands. It is vital to understand this universal principle. What you focus on expands. Whatever you hold with your attention, whether a problem, a lack, another's flaw, or your own, grows in power and presence in your life. That is why those who complain do not merely express displeasure. They plant in the fertile soil of their subconscious the instruction to receive more of what displeases them. The universe, obedient to the dominant vibration of your mind, multiplies the reasons to complain. Just as a farmer reaps what he sows, the complainer harvests new reasons to continue complaining. This is not empty theory. I have seen it repeat in hundreds of lives like an inexorable law. The one who focuses on what is lacking perpetuates scarcity, while the one who expresses gratitude for what they have amplifies abundance. The complaint fast, 21 days to transform your mind. I propose the most effective mental fast, 21 days without expressing a single complaint, either aloud or in your inner dialogue. At first, it may seem impossible, but this practice is the most powerful trigger for reprogramming your subconscious toward the frequency of gratitude, creativity, and abundance. How to begin? Use a bracelet, string, or band on your wrist. Each time you catch yourself complaining, whether a verbal complaint, a thought, a grimace, or a sigh of dissatisfaction, switch the bracelet to the other wrist. This small physical gesture interrupts the cycle and brings you back to awareness. Most people, during the first week, switch the bracelet dozens of times a day. Do not be discouraged. Each time you do it, you move closer to freedom. To accompany this fast, keep a gratitude journal. Each night, before sleeping, answer specific questions in writing. What good things happened today, no matter how small? What skill, resource, or person made my day easier? What difficulties did I overcome, and what lesson did they leave? What can I appreciate in myself today? At first your mind may resist. It may say, there is nothing to be grateful for. Everything is going wrong. Persist. The simple act of seeking reasons for gratitude, even if initially tiny, is the first step in changing the frequency of your mind. Reframing complaints. 50 ways to elevate your words. During this process, practice transforming complaints into neutral observations or appreciation. If you used to say, nothing works in this place, learn to say, I am seeking ways to improve this environment. If your impulse was to complain about the weather, say, today the weather invites me to adapt and explore new activities. If you feel the urge to criticize someone, look for a quality to appreciate, or, if you cannot, remain silent. Transforming complaint into appreciation does not deny reality. It is choosing the vibration in which you wish to live. A mind tuned to gratitude sees opportunities where others see obstacles. Inspirational story, the employee and the frequency of gratitude. Let me tell you about a man who came to my consultation defeated after years of unemployment. There is no work. The economy is in shambles. Nobody hires people my age, he repeated endlessly. I proposed the complaint fast, 21 days without a single word of discouragement or criticism, plus a journal where each night he would write down 5 things to be grateful for, even if small. The first days, according to his own account, felt torturous. He switched the bracelet every hour and caught himself thinking, this is useless. But he persisted, guided only by the promise of transformation. On day 12, he noticed he felt lighter. On day 18, he discovered he slept better and woke with an energy he had never known. On day 22, having completed the practice, an unexpected call arrived. An old acquaintance offered him the ideal job, exactly in the field he had long desired. It wasn't magic, he confessed. It was as if my mind had opened to possibilities I could not see before. His case is one among thousands. Gratitude changes your vibration, and life responds accordingly. Complaint or action, the distinction that frees. You must distinguish. Complaint is the vibration of the victim, the belief that the world is doing something to you, that you have no power. Constructive action, on the other hand, is the vibration of the creator. You recognize what displeases you, but do not magnify it. You act to change what is within your power and release what is not your responsibility. Do not confuse silence with resignation. It is not about holding back out of fear, but transforming energy before speaking. Those who practice gratitude discover sooner or later that life responds with new reasons to be grateful. Transformative affirmation. Each morning upon waking and each night when closing your journal, repeat with conviction, I see blessings where others see problems. My mind is tuned to the frequency of infinite gratitude. Make this affirmation your shield, your compass, and your practical truth. Conclusion. The 21-day complaint fast is, in reality, an initiation into abundant life. Do not fight complaints. Replace them. Redirect your attention. Change the seed. Remember, your words are law for your mind. What you hold within manifests outside. Gratitude is not just a feeling. It is a practice, a discipline, and above all, a door that opens the flow of all good. If you persevere for 3 weeks, your mind will become a renewed, fertile field, open to receiving and multiplying the blessings that have always been within your reach. Try it. Your life, will change forever. Chapter 6. Worry fast, releasing the future. Pause for a moment and contemplate the nature of worry. What is worrying if not imagining with all the force of your creative mind that something will go wrong? Worry is, in truth, a negative prayer, a constant visualization of what is unwanted, an unconscious request to the higher power for your fears to manifest. Let me say it plainly. To worry is to pray for what you do not want. The human mind is a laboratory of images and emotions. Everything you hold with intensity in your thoughts, your imagination takes as a command, and your subconscious begins to shape circumstances so that you experience them in one way or another. Thus the worrier not only suffers in advance, but unknowingly trains the mind to produce exactly what they fear most. Have you noticed that often, when you stop worrying about something, it resolves itself or disappears from the scene? Worry is like a fog between your consciousness and the clear guidance of the spirit. As long as you feed this fog, you lose vital energy, peace, and the capacity to respond effectively. Worry, creative imagination used against yourself. Man was endowed by the Creator with a divine gift, imagination. When imagination is consciously directed toward what is desired, it becomes the lever of all miracles. But when left adrift, prey to ancient habits of fear, it transforms into the source of all anticipated suffering. Worry, I repeat, is using your most powerful gift against yourself. Here is a truth every seeker must engrave in their mind. The future is never determined by the shadows projected by worry, but by the light of faith and surrender. The worry fast. Techniques to release the future. To detoxify yourself from worry, I offer a proven technique. The 6-day method. Designate a specific day of the week, for example Wednesday, to dedicate exclusively to your worries. On the other days, whenever a concern arises, tell yourself, I will think about this on Wednesday. Write it down on a sheet of paper and let it go. When the appointed day arrives, review your list. You will find that over 90% of worries have lost their strength or disappeared on their own. Only a few will require your real attention, and you can then address them with a fresh mind, free from anxiety's pressure. Complement this method with a Resolved Worries journal. Weekly, list all the fears and problems that once stole your sleep. Mark those that never happened or resolved themselves without your intervention. You will notice, to your amazement, that the vast majority of worries were illusory. This tangible evidence retrains your subconscious, showing it that worrying solves nothing. It only exhausts. Conscious surrender to the force that sustains the universe. You are not alone in this world. Above your understanding acts a higher power, an infinite intelligence that sustains the planets, governs life, and cares for you far better than anxious thoughts ever could. The secret of the worry fast is conscious surrender. Each night before sleeping, visualize an imaginary box before you. Place in it all your fears, uncertainties, and pending matters, and allow the higher intelligence to handle them through the night. Let me share 2 real cases to illustrate the efficacy of this practice. A medical student suffered paralyzing anxiety before every exam. His mind, trained to worry, presented 1,000 scenarios of failure. I instructed him to write down every concern each night and then burn the paper, visualizing the worries rising to the higher power. The simple ritual of releasing his concerns before sleep restored his serenity, and over time, he passed his exams with outstanding results. A mother plagued by chronic insomnia established a worry-free zone after 7 p.m. Each time an anxious thought arose, she noted it in her worries journal and postponed it until the next morning. Within a week, she slept deeply and felt more energetic than she had in years. The immediate reprogramming technique. Whenever your mind whispers, "What if something goes wrong?" respond immediately. And if everything goes perfectly, do this silently or mentally. This simple shift in language redirects the energy of imagination, opening the door to new possibilities. The constant practice of this fast, replacing worry with trust, fear with surrender, turns the mind into a receptive channel for solutions, opportunities, and well-being. It is not about denying facts, but about ceasing to predict failure before life has a chance to manifest. Conclusion and transformative affirmation. Return to yourself now and repeat, "I release my future from worry. I entrust my concerns to the higher power that governs the universe. I choose to imagine the best, knowing that life always conspires for my good." Remember, what you visualize with faith manifests. What you feed with fear does too. Make the worry fast your new habit. You will discover that life is far kinder and more abundant when you let go of the weight of the future and train yourself each day to flow confidently with infinite intelligence. The future is liberated when the mind stops grasping it with the chains of worry. Try it and witness the peace and miracles that arise when you finally hand the helm to the true captain. Chapter 7. Technological Rest, Fast from Mental Entertainment. Pause for a moment. Look around you. How many sounds, images, notifications, and screens fill your environment? Are you the master of your attention, or is your mind carried along by an endless tide of stimuli, news, songs, messages, and shallow conversations? Perhaps never before in human history has it been so easy to fill every second of life with external entertainment. But ask yourself honestly, have you felt more fulfilled, wiser, or at peace? Or have you noticed a new kind of fatigue, a growing inability to be alone with yourself, a subtle anxiety when the flow pauses even for a moment? Compulsive entertainment is the most respected addiction of our time. No one will scold you for listening to the radio all afternoon, binge-watching series until dawn, reading news, or losing yourself in videos and jokes. But every time you consume stimuli without measure, without discernment, you introduce psychic garbage into your mental field, just like eating without hunger, merely to fill the void. As excess food clogs the body, excess stimulation clogs the mind. Many people tell me, "I can't find inspiration. I don't know what I want. I feel like I've lost my spark." And I ask, when was the last time you were alone in silence, without entertainment, without a screen, without someone else's conversation? The answer is almost always an uncomfortable silence. Contact with your higher self requires space, silence, emptiness. If your mind is never alone, it is never receptive. Remember, in mental attitude, the genius within you can finally be heard. Compulsive entertainment, the new slavery. What you call boredom is really fear of your own undomesticated thought. Modern man fears stopping because he fears what he might find in the depths of his mind. Only those who dare to shed all external distractions will discover the hidden treasure, the inner voice that guides and heals. Compulsive entertainment is a temporary analgesic that paradoxically amplifies the original discomfort. The more you flee from your own emptiness, the stronger it becomes. The remedy is clear: a fast from entertainment. Give your soul permission to relearn how to be with itself. The entertainment fast, recovering your mind. I propose a gradual detox plan, a step-by-step recovery for your mind. Week 1. Eliminate 1 hour of all non-essential entertainment daily. Use that time to walk in silence, write your thoughts in a journal, contemplate nature, or simply sit quietly. Week 2. Dedicate an entire afternoon without radio, television, internet, or frivolous reading. Observe your mind's response. Restlessness will arise. Ideas previously hidden will surface. Week 3. Try a full day without any type of entertainment. Stay with your thoughts. Converse with your inner self. Listen to the sounds of the world without intermediaries. Week 4. If ready, attempt a full weekend free from external stimuli. Initially, it may feel like a sacrifice. Soon you will perceive it as a blessing. When filling this void, you may feel discomfort at first, like a stiff muscle beginning to move again. This discomfort signals healing. As the mind clears of noise, the inner fountain begins to flow. New ideas, clarity, peace, and renewed creativity emerge spontaneously. What to fill the initial void with? Do not fear silence. Occupy your free time with activities that nourish, not clutter, the soul. Suggestions include: walk in nature without headphones or a phone. Keep a personal journal pouring in your thoughts, dreams, and concerns. Practice contemplation. Observe a candle, a flower, a cloud without judging or analyzing. Dedicate minutes to silent prayer or mindful meditation without expectations or hurry. Listen attentively to those around you without preparing responses, just receiving. Recall and relive moments of joy and gratitude from your past. If the urge to entertain yourself compulsively arises, observe it without giving in. Welcome it, then let it pass. The key is to retrain the mind to find contentment and meaning in being itself, not only in what comes from outside. Stories of profound transformation, and let me share 2 real-life examples that illustrate the power of this fast. A businessman reached total exhaustion, unable to make decisions and on the verge of a nervous breakdown. His schedule was a torrent of calls, meetings, information, and constant distraction. I suggested a full week without newspapers, radio, or electronic devices, just himself and a notebook. By the 3rd day, after resisting initial anxiety, he experienced a mental clarity unknown since his youth. In that absolute silence, he found the solution to a financial problem that had tormented him for months. He returned renewed and now regularly reserves silent retreats to nourish his mind and spirit. An artist, after years of producing mediocre work and feeling creatively blocked, agreed to a fast from novels, movies, and social media for a month. At first she felt lost, unstimulated, almost empty. But after 2 weeks, her imagination awakened with colors and shapes, forgotten dreams returned, and the creative urgency she thought dead revived. Her art flowed once more, and with it, a deep joy of creating from her own center. These stories are living proof that when the mind is cleared of superficial stimuli, the soul, the source of power and wisdom, can finally manifest. Fundamental principle: the inner voice only speaks in silence. Technology and entertainment are not enemies. They are useful tools when used consciously, destructive when they enslave you. The essential principle is this: each time you choose silence and presence, you strengthen the bridge to your higher self. Each time you distract yourself compulsively, you weaken that sacred connection. Repeat: I allow my mind to rest and regenerate. In silence I hear the wise voice within me. I let the fountain of creativity and peace flow from the center of my being. Make the entertainment fast a regular practice. It is not denial, but conscious selection. When you regain control of your attention, you regain the helm of your life. You will be amazed to discover that in emptiness flourish the best ideas, true joy and lasting peace. Begin today. Silence awaits you, and with it your true greatness. Chapter 8. Letting go of toxic relationships, the social fast. There are subtle poisons more invisible than air and more potent than any drug, the negative influences of those around us. Your mind, like a fertile field, absorbs not only your own thoughts, but also the vibration and attitude of the people you spend time with. Think for a moment. Have you ever felt drained after being with someone? Have you noticed how your mood rises or falls depending on the company you choose? The truth is simple and profound. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Just as junk food deteriorates the body, certain relationships act as emotional junk food, draining your vitality, polluting your mood, and programming your subconscious with limiting beliefs, fear, or conflict. That is why the social fast, the selective cleansing of toxic relationships, is one of the most powerful and necessary practices for a clean and creative mind. The value of stepping away, the key to the social fast. The hardest part of a mental fast is not abstaining from news or reducing entertainment. It is temporarily stepping away from negative people. Some may respond to this idea with fear or guilt. Is it selfish to create distance, they ask? Let me clarify. Setting boundaries is not rejection, it is self-care. It is not about isolating yourself out of fear, but about withdrawing strategically to regenerate your mind, just as a farmer leaves the field fallow to restore its fertility. Emotional toxicity is contagious. Constant criticism, pessimism, dramatization, chronic victimhood, manipulation, verbal abuse or emotional blackmail, all these patterns act like weeds in your mental garden. If unrecognized and unchecked, they will eventually strangle the seed of your own well-being. How to identify a toxic relationship? Ask yourself honestly, do you feel drained or anxious after being with this person? Do you become more negative, cynical, or complaining after talking with them? Are you afraid to express your opinion or emotions due to fear of their reaction? Do they manipulate you with guilt, fear, or pity? Do they pressure you into decisions you don't want to make? Do they minimize or ridicule your dreams, achievements, or values? Do they compare you unfavorably to others? Do they ignore or trivialize your needs? Do they constantly complain without seeking solutions? Do they sabotage your projects or demotivate you? Do you feel responsible for their happiness or misfortune? Do they mock or criticize you even in public? Do you avoid topics or behaviors out of fear of their reaction? Do they repeat patterns of emotional blackmail? Do you feel your energy decrease in their presence? Have you distanced yourself from others due to their influence? Do you feel guilt when thinking of setting limits? Do you notice a lack of reciprocity in giving and receiving? Does their life revolve around drama or constant complaint? Do you constantly justify their behavior to others or yourself? If you recognize any of these signs in your life, it may be time to consider a selective social fast. The social fast protocol: boundaries, communication, and respect. A selective social fast does not mean cutting ties forever. It is about setting periods, days, weeks, or months, without contact with people who drain your energy until your mind and emotions are strong enough not to be contaminated. Prepare for this process with clarity. If you decide to step back, use a simple, loving script. I value our relationship, and I need time to focus on my personal well-being. This is a process of self-care, not rejection. When I am ready, we will reconnect with renewed energy. Do not over-justify yourself. A true friend will understand. Anyone who feels hurt may, in fact, confirm the necessity of this boundary. Practice saying no, protecting your space, and cultivating relationships that elevate you. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your growth, inspire you, and remind you of your best qualities on grey days. Story of transformation, healing codependency. Consider the case of a woman who had lived for years immersed in friendships filled with drama, demands, and emotional manipulation. Her energy was consumed putting out others' fires, feeling guilty for not being able to save everyone, and getting lost in cycles of complaint and resentment. Upon learning the principle of the social fast, she decided to spend 3 months withdrawing from these friendships. At first, she felt lonely and uncertain, even fearful of rejection. But she persevered. She devoted this time to therapy, reading, creative activities, and introspection. When she returned, she could clearly distinguish genuine friends from those who merely used her to vent their frustrations. She regained her vitality, surrounded herself with people aligned with her values, and never again sacrificed her peace for the approval of others. Isolation versus strategic retreat, the essential balance. Always remember the crucial difference. Isolation out of fear weakens you. Strategic retreat strengthens you. You step away not because you reject the other, but because you honor the sanctity of your own mental garden. The wise know when to open, when to close, when to give, and when to restore their energy. Cultivate edifying relationships, but never sacrifice your peace to satisfy someone else's drama. You are the vigilant guardian of your own consciousness. Like a gardener pruning weeds, you have both the right and responsibility to choose your surroundings. Protective affirmation. Make this declaration your daily shield. I surround myself only with people who elevate my consciousness. I am the vigilant guardian of my mental garden. Practice the social fast whenever your peace and strength require it. You will discover that by clearing your emotional field, your life fills with luminous, genuine, and reciprocal relationships. Self-love is the root of all prosperity. Choose the company that nourishes you, and you will flourish effortlessly. Chapter 9. Purge Symptoms and the Healing Crisis. When you decide to embark on a mental fast and begin clearing your mind of old toxins, it is essential to be prepared for a phenomenon as natural as it is necessary: the healing crisis. In physical detoxification, when someone stops consuming harmful foods, the body reacts. Old toxins stored in tissues are released into the bloodstream to be expelled. During this time, symptoms may worsen before improving. Headaches, fatigue, general discomfort. Why? Because as the body releases accumulated waste, it passes through a brief storm before regaining balance. The mind and subconscious operate no differently. When you begin a mental fast, whether from news, complaints, worries, or toxic relationships, the subconscious, deprived of its usual sources of nourishment, starts bringing to light what it had repressed and stored in the depths. At times, these may surface with unexpected intensity: painful memories, long postponed emotions, disturbing dreams, or feelings of emptiness. Do not be alarmed. This is not regression, it is progress. Just as the body heals by expelling waste, the mind heals by releasing the darkness it once preferred to hide. The healing crisis, phases and natural symptoms. I've guided hundreds through this stage. While each process is unique, the general pattern tends to repeat. Weeks 1-2, irritability, anxiety, impatience, the need to fill the void with old habits. Doubts arise and thoughts that seemed resolved resurface. Weeks 3-4, emerging clarity, intermittent periods of peace, spaces of understanding open, old wounds are remembered, but they no longer hurt the same. Sleep improves and the mind feels lighter. Week 5 and beyond, a deep, stable peace settles in. The urge to return to old toxins diminishes. A newfound trust in life and in oneself emerges. The key is to understand that discomfort at this stage is not a sign of failure, but of deep cleansing. Your subconscious is expelling, not creating, what no longer serves you. The darkness that arises is not new. It is ancient shadow finally coming into the light to be released. Supportive techniques: the Purge Journal. During this time, I recommend keeping a purge journal. Each time an uncomfortable emotion, repetitive thought, or intense dream appears, write it down, not as someone judging or panicking, but as a compassionate witness. Write without censorship, without overanalyzing, without seeking immediate solutions. Allow the mind to release what it has held for years. By writing, you release. By observing, you heal. Remember, you are not your thoughts, your emotions, or your memories. You are the space in which all of these occur. The more you allow the darkness to surface, the more space you create for light. Seeking additional support. In some cases, the purge may release very deep wounds. If emotions become overwhelming or traumas resurface that you do not know how to manage, seek guidance. A therapist, counselor, or trusted spiritual guide. This is not a sign of weakness but of wisdom. The cleansing process is safer and more effective when accompanied by someone who understands the path. Stories of perseverance and transformation. Many people consider abandoning the mental fast during the second week. Anxiety, emptiness, or discomfort intensifies. I have received letters from readers saying, "I felt everything getting worse. I wanted to give up." No. But those who persevere, those who accept the healing crisis as part of the process, later describe a sense of rebirth. One person said, "When I passed through the storm, a peace I had never known arrived. The inner noise diminished, and I could finally hear my own voice." Another shared, "The third week was the hardest. Childhood memories I thought were forgotten resurfaced. But by writing them in my journal and allowing the emotion to flow, I felt as if a weight had been lifted. Now I feel lighter, more open to the new." Crucial message: the light after the storm. Engrave this in your mind. Discomfort is a signal of cleansing, not of failure. What emerges does not belong to you. It is simply coming out to be released. Do not flee the process. Embrace the purge. Know that the mind, like the body, passes through dark nights before dawn. Let this chapter be your guide and your comfort. No matter how bleak the inner storm seems, clarity is closer than you imagine. Persist, observe. Give thanks for the process. Soon you will discover that most of the darkness only needed to be seen to dissolve. Liberation affirmation. Repeat softly, "I accept the cleansing of my mind and allow light to replace darkness. All that emerges is here to be healed and released. I move toward deep and true peace. In the healing crisis, trust. You are being renewed from the deepest core. The peace you seek is being born this very moment under the shelter of your new consciousness. Chapter 10. Conscious mental nourishment after the fast. Just as a physical fast must be followed by the careful reintroduction of foods, a mental fast requires the same attention when exposing your mind again to the stimuli of the world. Many make the mistake of cleansing their inner field, only to allow, without discernment, the return of noise, complaints, toxic information, and old habits, contaminating it once again. This is where true mastery begins, in conscious vigilance, in the deliberate choice of which thoughts, words, and stimuli you allow into your life. Remember, the mind is like a freshly weeded garden. Its increased fertility can bear fruit or attract weeds if you are not a constant guardian. The permanent mental diet, your new way of life. A healthy mind is not the result of a single event, but of a continuous and loving practice. The permanent mental diet consists of choosing, day by day, what nourishes, strengthens, and expands your consciousness. This does not mean denying reality or isolating yourself in an artificial bubble, but applying a simple and powerful rule. Choose intentionally 80% of your stimuli for the constructive, uplifting, and life-affirming, everything that brings you closer to your best self. Allow the remaining 20% for processing challenges, news, or difficult realities, without letting this minority govern your mood. This balance prevents both naive avoidance and chronic discouragement. If 80% of your thoughts and conversations are seeds of peace, purpose, inspiration, and gratitude, your inner field will better withstand adversity. The weekly mental menu, planning your inner nutrition. Just as a healthy physical diet requires planning, conscious mental nourishment is facilitated by creating a weekly mental menu. You can design it like this. Dedicate time each day to inspirational reading, biographies of people who overcame adversity, spiritual literature that elevates the soul, essays and texts that awaken admiration and creativity. Engage in uplifting conversations, choosing to share and listen to ideas that multiply faith, hope, solutions, and kindness. Reserve moments for deliberate silence, 30 minutes at the start of the day for meditation or contemplation of nature. Take walks without electronic devices, simply observing the world, breathing deeply, and allowing natural beauty to reorder your thoughts. Choose music that elevates your mood, soft melodies, chorales, instrumental compositions, chants, or any sound that awakens your soul to harmony. Create a personal list of mental superfoods, biographies that inspire, passages and books of spiritual wisdom, works of art that evoke admiration and purity, experiences of service and shared gratitude, and natural scenes, mountains, rivers, gardens, starry skies, combined with uplifting music and words of encouragement. This weekly menu will become your shield and fortress. Reintroduction protocol. Returning to the challenging without recontaminating. You may choose to read news, interact with difficult people, or face challenging environments, but do so like an expert who knows what dose to tolerate and when to withdraw. If you decide to inform yourself, do it briefly, only the essentials. Remind yourself, my inner peace is my priority. No headline can steal the clarity I have cultivated. For challenging relationships, set firm but loving boundaries. Choose how much time to spend, what topics to address, and when to step away if the conversation becomes critical or toxic. Recognize with humility that not everyone is ready for mental hygiene. You are not a sponge, you are the guardian of your own mental temple. Discern between entertainment that nourishes and entertainment that drains. Content that leaves you renewed, inspired, and energized is nourishing. Content that leaves you empty, tired, restless, or anxious is toxic, no matter how popular it may be. You decide what you consume. You are the guardian of your inner sanctuary. Sustaining story, the life of a conscious executive. Let me share the story of an executive who, over 20 years ago, understood the value of mental hygiene. He adopted 3 rituals. 30 minutes of morning silence to focus his mind. Permanent complaint fast, using a wristband to switch wrists at the slightest negative thought. News fast 5 days a week, allowing himself only 2 brief days of information. Thanks to this commitment, he maintained clarity, energy, and creativity in high-pressure environments. His decisions were wiser, his relationships more harmonious, and his physical and mental health remain strong while others succumb to fatigue and stress. Conclusion and mastery affirmation. The mental fast opened the doors to your inner freedom. Now, your responsibility is to maintain this state of clarity and expansion by choosing daily which thoughts, words, and environments you allow in your consciousness. Repeat each morning. I allow only thoughts and stimuli that build my well-being into my mind. I am responsible for the atmosphere of my consciousness. My permanent mental diet protects and expands me. Guard your inner field like a gardener tending a garden after the rain. Plant only what you wish to harvest. Peace, clarity, and abundance will naturally be the fruits of your new conscious mental nourishment. Remember, the true mental fast is a daily practice, not a goal. It is a path walked with joy, humility, and resolve. Chapter 11. Intensive fasts, deep cleansing retreats. On the path to inner renewal, there comes a point when everyday cleansing is no longer enough. Just as the body occasionally requires a prolonged fast to detoxify deeply, the mind and spirit need periodic retreats, true intensive fasts to release the oldest residues and allow accelerated transformation. Have you noticed that, even after practicing weekly mental fasts, certain burdens persist within you? Old wounds, patterns of thought that resist disappearing. For these knots, intensive fasts are the decisive remedy. An intensive mental fast can take several forms: a weekend of total silence, a full week in retreat without any external stimulus, even a sabbatical month, where you withdraw from the bustle to heal and regenerate from the deepest layers of your being. This is not a trend or a spiritual gimmick. It is a fundamental necessity for anyone seeking true fulfillment. The modern world demands speed, immediate responses, and constant information saturation. Yet the deep mind flourishes only in pause, silence, and fertile emptiness, the power of retreat. Prolonged fasting allows the mind to do a deeper cleanse. When you withdraw into silence, without phones, screens, conversations, or news, you grant your subconscious permission to perform profound internal work. The first days may feel uncomfortable. Just as with addictive foods, restlessness, boredom, recurring thoughts, and vivid dreams may arise. These are signs of purification and healing in motion. Soon, silence transforms into living presence. The mind stops ruminating on the past or anticipating the future, and begins to experience the peace, creativity, and sense of humility that only deep cleansing can provide. How to plan your first silent retreat. For those who have never done an intensive fast, I recommend starting with a full weekend. Choose a quiet place, a cabin in nature, a small monastery, a house away from noise, or even a room where you can ensure isolation. Prepare in advance, bring only essentials: enough water, simple and healthy foods, comfortable clothing, a journal for writing impressions and dreams, perhaps an inspiring book, and above all, a firm determination not to succumb to the temptation of filling the void with distractions. Establish a simple daily structure. Upon waking, practice meditation or silent prayer. Spend time walking outdoors, observing without judgment. Reserve periods for writing whatever arises without censorship. Eat in stillness, savoring each bite with gratitude without radio or reading. Allow boredom, restlessness, or emotions to arise. Observe them, accept them, let them pass. Close the day with gratitude, conscious breathing, and deep rest. If possible, plan longer retreats, 1-week retreats once or twice a year. A sabbatical month, when life allows, has the power to completely reorganize your existence, dismantle old structures, and open space for the new. Remember, just as the body regenerates through deep fasting, your mind and soul are reborn when you surrender to creative emptiness. Suggested calendar for deep mental fasts. 1 weekend of total silence per quarter. 1 week in a nature retreat each semester if possible. 1 sabbatical month every few years for radical cleansing and renewal. Make these retreats a priority. They are not escape. They are preventive spiritual maintenance. Just as no one waits to become seriously ill to care for their body, do not wait for a crisis to care for your mind. Retreat centers and sacred spaces. Almost every city and region offers retreat centers, monasteries, cabins, or natural spaces conducive to silence. Seek places with good energy, respect for others' rest, and an environment that inspires introspection. If you cannot travel, create your own retreat at home. Turn off all devices, inform those close to you, and immerse yourself in conscious silence. Transformative testimonies. Let me share two stories that illustrate the power of intensive fasts. A businessman, after years of superficial success and existential emptiness, decided to withdraw for 10 days in a cabin without connection. The first 3 days were a struggle, doubts, irritability, memories, but by the fourth day silence enveloped him like a balm. He began writing his true desires, rediscovered the meaning of his life, and upon returning, changed the direction of his company, dedicating it to service and innovation. It was like waking from a long dream, he confessed. An experienced therapist who helped others heal realized she had never addressed her own central wound. She gave herself 21 days without words, in absolute retreat. In that emptiness, the trauma she had long denied surfaced. She observed it, wept, wrote, and finally released it. Upon returning, not only had her pain healed, but her work with others became more compassionate, profound, and effective. Preparation and reintegration, keys to success. Do not improvise your retreat. 3 weeks beforehand, begin to gradually reduce stimuli. Less news, fewer unnecessary conversations, fewer social networks. Clean your physical environment and prepare mentally for the void. After the retreat, do not return abruptly to noise and speed. Reintroduce activities gradually, preserving new habits, inner silence, and enhanced clarity. Take your calendar now and schedule, even if it's just your first weekend of intensive fasting. There is no greater gift you can give yourself than deep cleansing. In the emptiness, the presence of the divine becomes tangible. The mind regains direction and your life realigns with the peace, purpose, and original energy to which you are inherently entitled. Retreat affirmation. Repeat before, during, and after your retreat. I surrender to deep silence. I allow my mind and spirit to be cleansed, renewed, and strengthened. In the emptiness, I receive guidance, inspiration, and true peace. Make intensive fasting a periodic practice. Your soul and your destiny will always thank you. Chapter 12. Life of continuous fasting, the perpetually clear mind. You have walked the path of mental fasting, and now you stand before the greatest revelation. True well-being is not the result of occasional practices, but of a life where mental fasting becomes a natural state, as ordinary and essential as the air you breathe or the water you drink. The goal is not to live alternating between cleansing and relapse, but to establish a lifestyle where the mind remains day after day, as clear as a mountain stream, as radiant as the sky after a storm. Continuous mental fasting does not require titanic effort, but humble consistency. It is the simple practice of applying mini-fastings throughout the day. Brief pauses of silence, conscious moments free from complaint, spaces where you choose not to consume information, not even the seemingly harmless. It is the art of deciding moment by moment which thoughts you admit, which words you speak, which images you allow into your consciousness. Think of dental hygiene. No one waits to lose their teeth to brush them. We do it daily, several times as a basic habit. So too must mental hygiene become routine, not something you turn to only in crisis, but a daily practice that keeps you lucid and at peace. The life of mini-fasts, effortless discipline. How does this translate into practical life? Begin your day with a conscious review. What thoughts woke with you? To whom belongs the first word that crossed your mind? Take a 5-minute silence before any stimulus. Offer an affirmation of gratitude. Set your day's purpose focused on the good. Throughout the day, create brief pauses after each call, meeting, or completed task. Sit in silence. Release words that add nothing. Decide not to feed complaint. At night, review your day with compassion. Where did you nurture toxicity? Where did you make conscious choices for your well-being? Record your progress in a simple journal, not to judge, but to observe honestly. End with a few minutes of silence. Give thanks for the day and entrust any remaining unease to the higher power before sleep. If you ever feel your mind clouding again, irritation, fatigue, or internal noise returning, recognize it as a signal to take another mini-fast, or even a brief retreat. The secret is to attend to mental hygiene with the same naturalness you care for your body. Community and support, sustaining the path. No one grows in isolation. Surround yourself with those who have also chosen a clean life. Share practices. Support each other in collective vigilance. Celebrate achievements and learn from missteps. Families, circles of friends, and entire communities have transformed their environment by collectively adopting the principles of mental fasting. This way, the practice is sustained long-term and relapse into old contamination becomes almost impossible. The transparent mind, your birthright. Imagine for a moment the mind in its natural state, transparent as crystal. Thoughts flow without clinging. Emotions are experienced without contaminating the soul. Consciousness observes, chooses, and decides without automatic reaction. This is how the great sages lived. This is how the true spiritual master lives, in perpetual fast from everything that does not serve the highest good. This state is not a privilege of a few. It is the birthright of every human being. You can attain it, maintain it, and share it. Your peace is contagious. Your clarity illuminates. Your example invites others to choose freedom. Final stories, perpetual peace and transformed lives. Let me tell you of an elder who for 40 years practiced daily fasting from thoughts, words, and stimuli. His serenity was legendary. Nothing could disturb his peace. Anyone who approached him felt somehow the presence of a transparent mind. "I cling to nothing," he would say. "I let life pass through me and choose only what is true, good, and beautiful." On another occasion, an entire family decided to transform their home into a sanctuary of peace. Each member practiced daily mini-fastings from complaint, entertainment, and noise. Soon the environment became harmonious. Arguments ceased. Love and understanding blossomed. Visitors asked the secret. They replied, "We live in mental cleanliness. We do not allow what does not nourish our highest good to enter." Culminating affirmation. Make this truth yours. Repeat it at the beginning and end of each day. I am a conscious guardian of my mind. Only the divine, the true, and the beautiful may enter my consciousness. I live in perpetual fast from all that does not serve my highest good. This is the greatest gift of mental fasting, a life of continuous cleanliness, stable peace, boundless creativity, and deep love. Live, then, in the transparency of the soul. Hold the helm of your mind with gratitude and firmness. And remember, mental purity is the source of all greatness. The fast is no longer an effort. It is your natural way of being, and thus goodness, beauty, and truth will be your lifelong companions.